Welcome back, everyone. We have a quorum with council members Gay, Allen, and Clay, and we are starting our workshop session. And our first item on the agenda is Making College Park Atlanta Safety Zone Strategic Plan presentation by CEO of Safe America Foundation, Lynn Pagano.
Okay.
Mr. Pagano on?
Yes, I just moved them over.
Okay.
And Shavela, you can relinquish control once they come over. Oh, unless you're doing the presentation for them.
Okay, no problem.
Ms. Pagano, could we do a mic check, please?
He's still muted, Michael.
So let me find him. Okay, I just sent him a note to unmute.
Can you hear now? I'm just double checking.
We sure can.
Okay. So, Mayor, nice to see you today, and I hope everything's going well for you. Little interesting way to get to meet in person, right? Virtually, or
Indeed.
I did see you at a council meeting, and I salute you for your leadership, and I look forward to having some time in person. And as you're hearing this, I guess this is a little different than talking in person because there's always a 1 second glitch, right, between when you talk and some of the responses. But if there's any questions that you all have, I did have a PowerPoint which I shared with your city manager, Terrence Moore, who's a delight, who's done great work for us. And as we've been talking about making College Park Atlanta's safety zone, I've also added to him another project which really goes much broader, and it's called Safe South. And I'll just acknowledge to you and the council members that are on this call today that I started Safe America back in the 1990s after years in
We lost you. At least I lost you.
Working with major companies around the country. And as I've been, all right, well, let's say if you can't hear, we can see if we can transition. Can you not hear yet?
You came back. You're good.
Did come back. Okay.
I think
Right.
if you talk closer to the microphone, that may be what's causing the cutout.
Okay. Well, is this any better? Can you hear this better?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you for my iPad today. How about that? Well, as we were talking about the history of Safe America as a quick preview, I began to look at things across the country. We helped do things like with General Motors, where we distributed 150,000 car seats and helped protect brand new babies that didn't have a car seat. Their parents were too disadvantaged. And as we gave away car seats, we headquartered it here in Atlanta, starting off with Mary.
We're dropping out.
I started to. We're dropping again.
I think it's a connectivity issue. You seem to kind of be, your voice is almost sort of pixelating at times. I'm not sure that's the right word for a voice. I think that's usually a digital thing, but the connection seems to not be great.
Well, I could move, and I'm in the office on a iPad. So is any? Can you hear me better? All right.
That seems to be worse.
I'm not sure if we're losing connection at all.
Testing 1, 2. Ms. Pagano, testing 1, 2. He's still on.
I guess, can you hear this? Now we can change to a different laptop, which might have better coverage on a hotspot.
Mr. Pagano, do you want to try logging off and logging back on with another device, and we can switch our order and keep on moving?
Sure. I'll do that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. Item number 2 on the agenda is consideration of updates to the City of College Park Human Resources Policies and Procedures Manual, Section 3.1, Equal Employment Opportunity Policy, and 3.2, Non-Harassment Policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Here this afternoon to seek approval of the changes to the handbook with the changes as noted in the notes that we put in the minute track. And see if we had any questions.
Well, Chris, you answered my question, and I understand now with those items in parentheses. I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Councilman Clay.
I saw it as something we needed to address. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I think at some point we're gonna need to do that whole book.
I would concur.
If I may, Councilman Taylor, so while Chris Cook and I were working to accomplish these recommendations, that does include plan and direction to get to that place. So ultimately, we'll be coming back with recommendations to do that. These provisions were most urgent based on some of the issues and concerns we've addressed most recently, and therefore there is a sense of urgency. Otherwise, there will be direction and guidance offered in due time with respect to a modification or an update to the entire document.
I guess we're okay.
All right.
So if I
Anyone else
may-
have any? Councilman Taylor, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I definitely agree, James. I think these 2 points that you guys are working on right now are very important to what we got going on to a day to
Yes,
day.
sir.
You know.
All right. So moving forward on that, that isn't, if no one has any other questions about it, looks like we've handled that issue.
Yeah, I think it's just consensus.
Right. Yep.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
So Chris, with the consensus having been offered by Mayor and City Council, we can proceed administratively. Therefore, there's no need to bring this up as a separate item during a regular meeting at this time. We can proceed administratively with the modifications per authorization of the Office of the City Manager with the consensus noted. Yes?
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Very good.
Thank you,
Thank
ladies
you.
and gentlemen.
All right. Let's head back to number 1. Looks like Mr. Pagano has joined us on a different device. So feel free to proceed. I think you've got about 10 minutes. Is that right, Terrence?
Yes, ma'am. I advise Lynn Pagano to offer no more than a 10-minute presentation to give council an opportunity to address any questions or thoughts you may have respectively.
All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Pagano. The floor. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Mr. Pagano, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Mayor. It's nice to see you again and others from the council. Well, as you started to hear, I'm sorry it was a little bit inconsistent with audio, but the bottom line is I'm very proud of what we are doing and what we've done for 25 years. And I think Terrence Moore has been a delight to work with. Among all the leaders I've had in the state, he's on the top end. And we've talked about, as we have with Chief Williford, who also has done great work in the past year, we talked about how to make College Park a safety zone for all of Atlanta. And I think the PowerPoint you're starting to look at, along with the videos of myself and yourselves, will give you a little bit of a flavor, if you will, of how and what we can do. So as I would say, if we can go switch maybe to the next slide, you'll see a little bit of information here about our vision of making College Park a hero for safety. And it's really very simple. Last summer, we started to train police officers, 90 of them here in College Park, how they can be better drivers. And you all know perhaps some of that history of what's happened because of those laptops in the front seat, if you will, near the dashboard of a police car, and how that's given them the same distraction as a regular driver. Well, working with them, we have simulators now in the College Park Police Department. We've been training them. We're going to do more training. And I think the bottom line here is it's so unique. I've talked to the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police, and they're impressed with College Park, and they want to mimic around the state what College Park is doing to train police officers to be safer drivers. So we are already making you kind of a hero for the whole state. And as we go on to the next slide, and you'll see a picture on each slide as we've taken pictures over the last year. This is one that I took last summer with Chief Williford, the deputy, who has been very interested also in how can we make training be so good that police officers are viewed as safety experts. So that's something that we're doing and we're continuing to do. The next slide goes into how teenagers can appreciate police. And we've been training over 10,000 teenagers since 2002 how to be drivers here in Georgia. We are now working with the Georgia Department of Driver Services so we can actually do training from College Park. And it can be from Mayor, from the police department, in the simulator training area, and then out on the streets in cars, which we have our own fleet of automobiles. And I think the good news about this is if you think about young kids thinking police are helping train them to be safe, they actually become very comfortable with police, and it changes the perspective. We work with Channel 2, AJC, and other newspapers like the South Fulton Neighbor, and have been telling the story about our work with y'all. In the last 6 months, we've had several ads in the newspaper, and we're getting real positive feedback from people who say, you know what, you're doing such great work in College Park. We'd like to learn more. And we have an event November 7th at the Georgia International Convention Center where we're going to tell the stories to others around the state. The next slide goes into another topic, which is another issue, and that is protecting all of the young girls and women around the airport. And this picture you see there is an ambulance that we were donated by AMR, which is the major ambulance company in America. They're very impressed with what we're doing, and so is the airport, and so are other companies and other communities like Clayton County, which wants us to duplicate with them the same thing. Cobb County, and then their chairman, their mayor, whose name is Mike Boyce, has had a meeting with me this past week, heard about what we're doing with College Park, and he's now interested in mimicking what College Park is doing. So we're putting you out on a very positive level. And this issue, we all know, is very dangerous and bad. I will tell you that we had a year ago, pre-Super Bowl, an event at the airport. We actually had a kiosk, and we met to over 400,000 people and told them some of the major stories. And this is information like there are over 20 million people affected around the world on this tragic issue. And you know, Atlanta is right at the top. So working to help fight this with the hotels around College Park and working with the airport. And I was just asked by a minister at the airport, Blair Walker, who wants us to work with ATL and with their ministry areas, with their chapels at the airport. So having the sense of working together, we're giving them the sense of College Park's trying to be a really great leader in solving this problem. The next step that we're also including as a factor in how we can make College Park a safety zone for all of Atlanta is unveiling a new smartphone app that we're now releasing this fall. And it's got great information. We can go deeper into it, but if you'd like to upload this, we were going to ask for our webmaster and IT director to send it to you by today, but unfortunately we got a little tied up. But the app is available on Android or Apple phones, and think about being able to know the latest on issues like COVID-19. What else is great? Having been in broadcasting, we're going to be growing a safety news network, and I'll be interviewing people, and Mayor interviewing you if you'd like, or the chief. We've already done some interviews with Chief Williford, and we'll be able to put this out so people in College Park and really anywhere in Georgia who download this app will have a sense of how to be safe. And it's not just on COVID-19, it's on other topics that all relate to protecting lives. The next step of what else is Safe America thinking of, and what else can we do around College Park? Well, how about fighting those gangs that are hurting young kids or influencing them to get into some bad activity like sexual abuse? So this is something else we'll work on, and we'll have an event, as I mentioned, November 7th, where we talk more about this with some of the leaders from the Georgia Department of justice, juvenile justice. As to the next slide, and we're going through this kind of quickly to say, we know that there are some questions you may have. I'm happy to chat with you later. But know that we are also working internationally. In fact, one of the new things we've just finished this summer is starting an international program, which is called WorldSafe, and it's now incorporated. In fact, the name of it is the WorldSafe Institute. And this is something, Mayor, that I was telling Manager Terrence Moore, that we could perhaps have this headquartered in College Park. And interestingly enough, we're talking tomorrow to a lot of people around Europe. One is in Netherlands, where they have something unusual called a circular runway. Imagine us telling this story, and in fact, next slide gives you an idea of how we're going to be telling some of these kind of stories, and that is through something new called an Aviation Alliance, and working with the Atlanta Airport Chamber of Commerce. And I spent 10 years in chambers, helping run chambers in Atlanta as well as in Miami. We're going to be able to engage companies wherever they are. If they have an interest in the future of aviation in Atlanta, if they have a future of how and what else could happen to the airport, could they ever build a circular runway? Well, these are interesting stories that we can tell. And again, how this gets out, if people think about College Park leading the conversation, I think this is good. And this is one way how I helped the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce double its membership back in the mid 1980s from 3,000 to 6,000 members. Well, imagine how this can help the Atlanta Airport Chamber of Commerce and College Park. And that's what we're talking about. So I think there was one more slide, if we can hit the slide. And maybe if not, we're close to the end here. I'm not sure. I think there was one or two more slides, but maybe it's not able to be shown right now. But I will say this, one other thing is, again, I talked about having a news center. And this is a visual to show you that we've already been talking about how we could build a WorldSafe Institute. Imagine if this were in College Park. And we have companies we've worked with that are very significant, starting with UPS and Delta and others around the country like Walmart. In fact, the CEO of Walmart is a good friend. And how I want to grow the Safe America and WorldSafe programs over the next 5 to 10 years is to do such incredible work that people will think of us like the CDC. So if we become such a partner with College Park, and you all are open to us becoming, I'll call it citizens or kind of being at home in College Park, I do think we can make some major financial impacts. Growing international firms think about moving to College Park, certainly continuing to have people use College Park in other ways, like for hotel rooms if they're flying in and out of Atlanta. And then beyond that, with the WorldSafe Institute, training people to be better. And it includes police. And again, the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police wants us to train officers around the state. And we're saying, how about if we do this in College Park? So again, Mayor and members of the council, I appreciate this opportunity. And if you have other questions or other opportunities to visit in person, I'll look forward to wearing a mask and visiting with you.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm just very pleased that we're doing what we're doing. I think we are assuming a leadership position, and very happy with what's going on.
Well, Councilmember Clay, I appreciate that. I see a few of the slides that kind of popped up here after I was stopping. If I can back up a couple of slides, one of the things I mentioned, you can see we've done a full page ad in local newspapers showcasing College Park. And by the way, we paid for it. So the nice thing is we're promoting you without you putting dollars on the table. Other things we've done, and I'm going to see if you can back up one or two slides. This is the event November 7th at the GICC, and you can see 8 of the topics that we'll talk about. And some of the other ones that we didn't talk about today are, disasters. We've done great work in Puerto Rico. And if I told you people from Puerto Rico want to come to College Park and showcase how they want to work with us, we have other people from around the country also. And one slide before this one, I think, we can go one more. Thank you. One more. I don't have these all memorized. There we go. The Aviation Alliance. And again, to think about how we're going to involve members of the Atlanta Airport Chamber and others who are now members of something called the CEO Network. And I've been talking to people around the country who are saying, College Park, pretty cool. and they're getting intrigued about it as if it's the new mini headquarters for Georgia. So again, I think the nice thing is we're not only giving you exposure and a positive impression among Atlanta media, but we're getting exposure around the U.S. for College Park.
Very, very positive exposure.
I think it's great exposure for College Park, especially in the safety end, and I applaud you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I'd love to have all of you council members join me and members of our board on November 7th. It's a Saturday. It's at GICC. We can have a conversation before then and then maybe have a speaking role for each of you. And I was thinking, Mayor, of asking you to help introduce that event, which is Saturday morning on, again, November 7th. And great program opportunities as we go through 2021-22. I'm looking at making College Park the home of Safe America. And again, I think you think of different companies. If the CEO of Walmart, who's a friend, decides to come to College Park, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing. And we have people from other countries that want to be part of this. So the World Safe Institute could be significant. I used to work with universities. The University of Georgia, by the way, wants to partner with us. Their journalism school. They're looking for interns. We have other universities around the country, Rutgers and Columbia, and Puerto Rico. The school down there is actually getting interns for Safe America. So as we can tell stories and we showcase College Park and say, here's the ideal, again, I think the positive thing is there aren't too many communities in the country right now that people think of as the best place for business or for citizens. And my goal is to showcase College Park.
Fantastic. Thank you so
Very
much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Good to be with all of you. And I'll look forward to us being in person with masks on.
Sounds like a plan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Item number 3 is consideration of the City of College Park Municipal Golf Course, golf carts, and the Yamaha lease agreement.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members.
Good evening.
How's everybody? We've got the renewal for the Yamaha golf course golf carts. This was a 4-year lease that we took over in September of 2019 when we took over the golf course in September. It is a 4-year lease, but we had 30 golf carts with 2 other carts that were a service cart, and so there were 2 extra carts, but we have looking at a renewal of 36 carts. So it's actually 4 more carts. I think I put on the memorandum it was 6, but we had 2 utility carts that were part of that last lease agreement. It is $170 more for this lease, but with the 4 more carts. They are revenue generating for us for the golf course. And if we've had some good times, but with COVID and a little bit of rain, but this is a revenue generating for us. So if there are any questions, I'll be more than happy if we can answer them.
Any questions?
Well, Michelle, you answered my question, so I'm good with that. There was one other thing that I had thought about. When I looked at the lease agreement, it requires that the carts basically stay at the golf course. And I know in the past, when we had the art festival, we don't have the art festival these days, but we may hopefully have something similar in the future. We would borrow carts from the golf course and use them to ferry people around the festival and so forth. Is there a way to do that? I know the agreement, the way it's worded, says basically they stay at the golf course. Is there a way to get permission if we ever wanted to do that, to move them off the golf course?
I know we use them for the Christmas parade too. I would think that they were in the city limits. That was something I'd have to go to the legal for them to look at. It's certainly a question we can ask. I know legal brought up that it couldn't be a 4-year lease. It would need to be renewed every year. That was something Danielle had brought on the contract. So we can go back and ask and make sure we insure them. So I don't know. I mean, if they have to be there the whole time.
Yeah, the other thing was I did see the 30-day out in there, which, so even if we were in a 4-year lease, I wasn't too worried about the 4-year lease because it had a 30-day out. So if we did want to get out, we could. And it did say it would renew, but we had to give them 30 days notice if we didn't want to renew. So it seemed like we were pretty well covered, even though it was a 4-year lease. And originally I had questioned that 4-year lease, but I'm okay with it as it is. We may need, but if we want to make it a 1-year lease, we can.
I think
Council in the past has felt pretty strongly about that. My inclination would be that somebody like Yamaha that's putting this much in and providing new carts, as I understand it, they're going to want to see a longer term commitment, or at least the intent of a longer term commitment, even though it could be not enforced or wouldn't be enforceable, I should say. So I'm good with it as it is. But
Anyone else?
I'm good with it. I'm good with a 4-year lease. I think it's a good program. I'd like to find out if we can use them other places. That would be good to help out in emergencies and stuff like that. But I'm good with a 4-year lease. I think Yamaha makes a good product, and I thank you for looking into it and bringing this before us.
this was Ed Coleman. He looked in and negotiated this, so he did the hard work on this, and it's the golf course is doing well, and the carts are revenue. So it's super exciting to actually get 4 more carts to be able to create the revenue. If we just put out 36 carts a year, we're looking at 100,000 for revenue if they go out, just 36 a day. And I know we bring in, depending on good days, can be 250 people. They don't all rent the carts, but it's super exciting. The golf course is doing well, and the city supporting it. And this will be a great addition to have some newer carts out there.
I talked to a couple of people that played over there about a week or so ago, and they said it's the best course. I mean, College Park is the best they've ever seen it. They've never seen it look so good. They've never seen it be so good, and they really enjoyed it. So
it's a secret.
To your crew.
Yeah, once that secret gets out, I went out and had lunch out there on Friday. So you guys need to drop by. They have food and live music, and it's fantastic. I'm super excited about the golf course.
It's not going to be a secret for much longer. We're putting it out on Facebook and YouTube and everything else.
It looks great, Madam Mayor. It looks awesome out there. They worked really hard. So the crews did a great, even with COVID that's been going on, they've worked really hard out there.
Fantastic. Well, so do we need to hold off until you can get an answer on the essential sort of special use within the city, or do you want us to vote on move this over to the regular session and vote on it this evening?
I guess we just
Mayor, the recommendation is the latter for a regular session this evening.
All
Based
right,
on
then.
the consensus having been shared by many of you all. Michelle, I think that's the direction you and I've talked about while we were preparing the agenda as noted. Yes.
And we can come back and do a short contract amendment to address Councilman Clay's concern about other uses. So we'll work with Michelle to see if we can do that. And that's something that we may have to bring back to the council at a later date. But for purposes of this evening, we should move forward.
Okay,
Right.
Great. So we'll put it on the regular session agenda.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
believe that concludes our business for the workshop. And we are done in 28 minutes.
that's good.
That is good. I'm not going to let anybody say anything else. Let's take this and run with it. I'll see everyone at 7:30.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.